How's it going, everybody? Jake from UK Barrow Conversions here. Today I thought I would go for a bit of an instruction guide on our latest addition to our bait boat range, which is our UKBC Hawk bait boat, which is this boat just here. Now, this boat fundamentally is pretty much identical in terms of spec to our Raptor Mk3 bait boat. So it has the touchscreen remote, Toslan 520 sonar, and a bunch of other little bits and pieces. But it's a slightly smaller boat by comparison to the Raptor. So what I'll do in this video, we'll get them side by side, do a direct comparison so you can see what they both look like side by side and understand and learn the exact differences between both boats. And we'll go for a bit of a user guide as well. That'll help those of you that have already purchased one of these know exactly everything about the remote, or if you're looking to potentially purchase one, it will give you a much better understanding of what you can expect from it as well. Now that I've got both boats by the side of me, you'll see I've got the Hawk to my right and the Raptor to my left. Now, from this distance, you probably won't be able to tell too much of a difference. And the key difference between these two boats is mostly the size and also its hopper capacity. I'll bring the camera a bit closer and you'll be able to see that the Hawk is a little bit smaller than the Raptor by comparison. I would say that it's probably around 4 to 5 kilo hopper capacity, whereas the Raptor is 6 kilos plus. Obviously, the other added benefit of, say, like the Raptor over the Hawk, for example, is that you also have the top loading rig in the main part of the actual hull itself, rather than the rear hopper section like you do on the Hawk. So both boats, technically speaking, are top loading rig. But as I mentioned, with the Raptor, it's the entire hopper, whereas on the Hawk, it's just the back hopper section. Now, technically speaking, you do have more hoppers on the actual Hawk itself, but again, that's to try and utilise the actual size and the spacing and how everything's set up and built on this particular boat. The actual Raptor itself, although only having 2 hoppers, they are quite a bit larger, as you can probably see. Both boats are reasonably heavy. I mean, they're both quite big boats, especially for UK waters. But the Hawk is a little bit lighter by around 1 to 1.5 kilos by comparison to the Raptor. And obviously that's down to the nature of its smaller size. And although it is a little bit smaller, it's still plenty big enough, certainly big enough for UK waters, and plenty big enough for European waters as well, such as France, Croatia, etc. In my personal opinion, I would actually suggest the Hawk is probably a little bit better suited if you're going to be using the boat quite a lot in the UK, because the Raptor really is quite a big boat and it really is intended for European waters. It can still, of course, be used in the UK, but as I mentioned, with the venues that most of us have or have access to, it's going to be a very, very large boat for UK waters. Obviously, European waters, much, much bigger, and you also wanted to send out as much payload as possible, which is exactly what the Raptor is built for. The Hawk, by comparison, you can still use, it's still quite nimble, it's a little bit smaller, you know, as I say, from certain angles, you probably can't quite tell the exact differences, but it's much more suitable, in my opinion, for UK waters. So what exactly is included with the UKBC Hawk bait boat? Well, of course, the boat itself, fundamentally, and of course, the remote, the touchscreen remote. But as well as that, you're also getting a free bag as well. So this bag just here, just out of shot, which is tailor fit for the Hawk itself. And you also get this remote tripod as well. So this is a no additional cost. These are included with the price of the boat itself. Now, like I was saying at the beginning of the video, fundamentally, the Raptor and the Hawk are very, very similar, just in a different shell, essentially. They use the same motors, they use the same remote, and they use the same Toslan 520 sonar and the same GPS operating system. So in terms of performance and how they both perform, you could arguably say it's identical. It's literally just the actual size of the boat and how the hoppers operate and work. That means, as I mentioned, that the remote between both boats is the same, this being the latest Mk3 style touchscreen remote, which has proven to be incredibly popular. Really simple to use, obviously a bit more modernised and up to date. And I have done a guide on this specifically for the Raptor, but I thought I'd go through it again specifically for the Hawk boat as well. Okay, so here we have our handset. And this is really nice and simple to use, so I'll give a very, very brief going over. As I mentioned, I've done a full guide on this specifically for the Raptor bait boat before. Fundamentally, here on the right hand side, we'll start off is our sonar live data. So at the moment, this boat isn't in the water because unfortunately we're located in the UK and it's October, and as you can imagine, the weather is incredibly miserable and I don't fancy getting myself too soaked. So we're indoors today and the boat is hard against the floor, so we're getting no sonar information. But normally this is where your sonar reading will be, so you'll have your depth reading just here and your water temperature. And if you want to have a closer look, if you want to enlarge this, you can click this button just here and you can have the whole screen of your sonar reading. Here we can turn our fish finding feature on and off. We can change the surface clarity, and we can also put it into demo mode for display purposes if we wanted to, like so. But fundamentally, this is where all your sonar is controlled. Down here, you won't be able to change this currently because, as I mentioned, it's not in the water, so you won't be able to see it. But each one of these numbers changes the color layout of the sonar reading. So it will all be included in the manual, but essentially it will change what colors mean certain things. So as we have it at the moment, I think is red, green and yellow. Red is soft, green is like a medium density, yellow is hard, for example. But you can change all that with these numbers here and have them as whatever you like, whatever you prefer. To get back out of this, we're just going to simply click this button again. So now that we've gone back to the home screen, this fundamentally is the main part that will tell you everything you need to know about the boat. So for example, top left, we've got our remote strength. So currently at 100, which is maximum. We've got our battery life and our remote. Up here, if I just cover this corner so you can see it a bit better in the light, we've got our battery voltage for the boat itself, and then we've got our satellite strength. Now, at the moment, satellite strength is at 0 because we're indoors. And realistically, obviously, it naturally goes without saying, the more satellites you have, the better the GPS is going to be, the more accurate. And you really want around 20 for a good, reasonable accuracy, I would say. And we can see here we've got a little emblem of the boat itself, and all this information surrounding it is going to basically tell you the status of everything. So left and right, we've got our hopper doors, we've got headlight, we've got our bait spiral if you have one, or bait spreader if you've got one connected. That will tell you if you've got that powering up. And here you've got your sonar as well. So all of this is basically telling you what the boat's doing, where it is currently in terms of hoppers, etc. So for example, if I go ahead and open the left hopper, you will see that that operates and you'll see the animation. The same for the right, you'll see that operates as well. Now on the Hawk specifically, the hoppers are manual close. They're a very soft close, so quite often you might find as you open them in the water and as you sail the boat back, sometimes they often close themselves. And if you want to open the rear hoppers, which is the one that is top loading, you press down and that will operate your rear hoppers, which you just saw that emblem just there operate. Now, these are locked because this isn't a feature that this boat has, so you can ignore that. But essentially, if you're opening the hoppers and you're unsure if the hoppers have opened, first things first, the boat lights themselves will tell you, and it will refer to tell you if the hoppers are open. But secondly, you can also back it up by seeing it on the remote. Also on here is all of our GPS and navigation information. So you'll see here, this is a compass to tell you which direction you're facing in regards to your home point, for example. So once you save your home point, you'll see that's represented by this little house emblem, this little house logo. And then all this here is basically referring to your GPS. So it's saying, at the moment, to be honest with you, I haven't actually saved a home point, so it's saying 9,999 meters. But if I was to save that, so for example, if I go ahead and save that now, so what I'm going to do is save my home point by pressing this button. Oh, it won't let me because I've got no satellite, so ignore that. But under normal circumstances, you press this button, that'll save your home point, and then it'll obviously indicate on the compass where your home point is in reference to where the boat is positioned. And this will all tell you, all this information tells you, once you've got GPS location saved, it will tell you how far away that location is. It will tell you how far away it is if it's actually, navigating to that save spot, for example. And then this also tells you that we're currently in manual mode. So when we go to navigate under GPS, which again, I'm not going to go into massive depth of, I have already covered a video on that, which you can check out, and I'll put that in the description as well. You have manual mode, which means you'll navigate to your destination, the boat will stop, and then you open the hoppers manually and ask it to return home manually. Or you can change that to auto. When you're about to navigate, you've got the option to change to auto, and that means full autopilot. So that means it will navigate to your spot, it will open your hoppers, and it will return home for you as well. Now, on this particular actual screen itself, you've got all your locations here. So you've got home, point 1, point 2, point 3, so on and so forth. But if you want to access them all, because you've got a lot more than that, you press this anchor up here, and this allows you to actually access all of your GPS points. Now, you get, I can't remember the exact number, but it's 2,000 and something GPS points available on this remote. It is really quite daft. It's absolutely insane how many spots there actually are. And you can see the boat has memorized previous spots that I've saved. And if you're physically on water, it will give you a much better, and obviously, of course, if you've got GPS, which I haven't, it will give you a much better representation as to where each one of those spots are. So we can see 1 and 2 just there, and number 3. And this will not make sense currently because obviously we're out of water, like I say. But once you're on water, it'll give you a much better idea and indication as to where each one of those spots are. Now, naturally, what I recommend to do with each spot that you save is keep a note in your phone. So point 1 is under tree on the right, for example, and so on and so forth, to help you navigate even better. But what you can do, another really, really cool feature of this, so you've got 23 spots that you can save, right? What you can do is you can also change location. So you have 99 locations that you can save, and to each one of those locations you can save 23 spots, which is how it's achieving its ridiculous amount of GPS points. So what we usually do, obviously if you're fishing multiple venues, you can go location 1, and you can actually type in this little box here, location 1, and you can put that down as whatever you like. So let's put that down as just a load of gobbledygook, enter, save position, and save location. If I click that right, there we go. Now, if I go off this, you'll see that goes to location 2. But if I go back to location 1, you can then save. So you know as a reference, location 1 is XYZ, location 2 is XYZ venue. And therefore you can know exactly, so if you're going to a different venue, you can cycle through to whichever venue it is, you'll see in your notes just there. And you'll then have a reference to know exactly which location you're at. So you know that the points you're then using are correct to that venue, which is a really, really smart feature. Once you're done with this page, if you're happy with your GPS and you've saved your points, again, I can't go into too great detail because I've got no GPS signal still in here, unfortunately. But what you'd normally do, for example, if you want to save a spot, I'd click, let's say I want to save this as point 1, I'd click point 1, and as you can see, I've got a bunch of information. So it's asking me, what do I want to do here? Do I want to navigate to point 1 if it's already saved, which we can see it's not because it's coming up with a load of bogus information? Or do you want to save spot 1? So in this case, I'd click save, for example, but as you can see, I can't do that because I've got no satellites. But let's pretend spot 1's already saved, and what we're asking it to do is go to spot 1. Here we've got auto, which, as you remember just a moment ago, we were set to manual mode, which, as I say, is opening the hoppers manually when you get to your spot. If we want it to do it all automatically for us, we'd press that on. This is to activate your hopper. So again, we want that all on for the autopilot. Hook you can ignore because this boat doesn't have hook release, so you can ignore that. And spray is referring to your bait spreader, for example. So if you've got a bait spreader, essentially what you can do is you can ask it to go, I want you to go to spot 1, I want you to auto return, I want you to open hoppers, and I want you to operate the bait spreader all at the same time, essentially, all at the click of a button. So you can put the remote down, you can focus on sinking your line, whatever you're doing, setting up your bobbins, etc. And then all you do from there is click go. And if it existed, if that spot existed, it would go off and do its thing for you. Once we're done with this, to return home is really simple. If you ever get stuck and you want to get out of a menu, this is your home button. So you simply press home and you go back to your home page. So now that we've covered that, let's cover the remaining buttons. F1 is to operate your headlights. So as you can see, that symbol now goes off because the headlights are on, headlights back on. F2 is to operate your accessory. So for example, if you have a bait spreader or bait spiral connected, F2 will operate it, it'll put power to it, and you'll see this logo will change. And that basically means that's now operating. So if I had a spreader attached, that would be going round and round, like the animation suggests, and I can turn that off like so. F3 is to back up. So if you're stuck in a tight section and you just need the boat to back up, you press F3, and that will put the boat into reverse for a matter of seconds for you. And lastly, this is another way you can save points as well. So instead of doing it through the screen, you can click this button and you can save a location like that as well. Here we have our winch camera. So if you have a winch camera, that is, you'd access it through this. So that's another really nice feature. Your winch camera, there's no extra screen. If you have a winch camera, if you purchase the boat with it, you press this, you turn it on, and it's all operated. Your screen is here, all your display is there, and you operate it all via this. Really, really nice and simple. Again, we'll come out of that by pressing home. Here we have cruise control, which essentially is auto forward. So if I press that, the boat operates cruise control, operates auto forward. And again, to stop, we're just going to press down on the directional pad and that will stop the boat from operating. Here, as I mentioned a moment ago, is our GPS power button. This is our settings menu, which I'll go into in just a moment. This is return home. So in terms of returning to the home screen, this is, of course, and this is to save your home point. So lastly on the remote, all we really have to go through, and again, I'm not going to go into too great a detail, is the settings menu. So if we click settings, you can see there's a hell of a lot of information there. And initially, I guess you could say that it looks somewhat intimidating, but it's not as bad as it seems. One very, very important information, or important piece of information rather, that I'm going to give you here is boat selection. Now, you'll see, like I mentioned a moment ago, the remote is used both on the Raptor and on the Hawk. However, the layout of everything is slightly different in terms of the hoppers, for example. So if you order one of our boats and you're finding your hoppers aren't working, make sure the boat selection is actually selected correctly. This is something I learned literally yesterday. I had a customer who had one of our Hawk boats and he said the hoppers weren't working. And it turned out that the remote was actually still set to the Raptor boat. Everything else would work but the hoppers. So just make sure, first things first, you've got your boat selection correct, because it is also very easy to accidentally click, and then of course once you click it and go and change it, it's sometimes quite hard. You don't know exactly what you've done, and it's sometimes hard to retrace your footsteps, so you can bear that in mind. Here we have brightness, so as you can see we can adjust the brightness on the screen. We've got a volume, so you can also mute the remote as well. I've got the remote on mute currently, but normally when you ask it to do something such as cruise control, you'll have an actual audible sound come from the remote to tell you it's in cruise control. Here on the right hand side we've got a bunch of boat info and RC info, so this tells you exact voltages, it tells you what variation of version and updates, etc. So this is generally stuff you don't need to worry about, but the voltage is something quite smart to keep an eye on. Another thing here that we have is driver settings. Now driver settings are quite a lot of adjustment it can be done here. So you've got balance adjustment. So balance adjustment would be essentially the balance to the motors. So we're currently set to 0, so they're both zeroed out. -1 means that you're going to be yawing the boat left, and if you go positive, that means you're going to be yawing the boat right. So if you find over time the boat starts to veer, you can do balance adjustment to get it back on track. Power max basically means the maximum RPM or power of the motors, which we're currently set to 100, but you can turn this right down to 50, like so you can halve the motor speed. If you're finding the boat's too quick, because these are quite quick, they're quite nippy, you can adjust your motor speed like so, nice and easy. Stop adjustment is your stop axis or stop time on your GPS point. So if you're finding the boat is coming up to the point and stopping too soon or stopping too late, that can be adjusted on here. And the braking time is also to do with that as well. And that is how soon it starts braking as it comes up to the point. So you imagine this, my hand is the boat, that will affect how long the boat starts braking for. One thing to not do is adjust your motors 1 and 2. This is the polarity of the motors. If you find you accidentally end up ticking one of these, you may not realise, but what you will notice is the boat may start going round and round in circles, or you might find that as you go up, that then puts the boat into reverse. Always refer back to this and check your motor polarities are set correctly, because you might have accidentally changed them, and that will affect that, of course. Now, obviously, naturally, if you make any changes on this screen here, make sure you click save to save your settings, and you're good. And obviously the same on this side too, of course, if you adjust any of that. We have more settings. Now, one thing that you can do here is if you don't like the button layout, you can change it. So you can change F1, for example. If you want F1 to be the backup button, then you can change it to that, and so on and so forth. I recommend you keep it as it is, but it's completely up to you. You can change your background image, you can change, the colours of the background, you can change it so it's got a boat on it, you can change the colours of everything. You can see that the colours here are all changing. You can change voltage percentage to, instead of it being voltage, it will be a percentage, for example. You've got a lot of adjustment there. Another nice feature, in my opinion, to see if you've got any dead zones or stick drift, for example, is joystick calibration. So, for example, if we operate the joystick, you can confirm that it's reaching 100 all the way, for example, and confirm that everything's working correctly with your joysticks, like so, and make sure that, for example, if you're finding the boat's too slow or something like that, you confirm that your joysticks aren't the issue. Again, if you're saving anything or making any changes, make sure you click save, but I'm going to ignore that so it can restore back to default. And then lastly, we have more settings again. Now this is it for the settings. Don't get too worried. There is no more settings than this. It's just that you've got a lot of adjustment with these particular boats and what you can do with them. You've got a lot of customization. Here on the video side, this exclusively is for your winch camera. So if you have a winch camera, refer to another video that I've already done, but this basically allows you to search your channels, set your frequencies, and change all your settings for your display on the winch camera. Here we have basically a bunch of variety of things. So we've got, this is mostly to do with our sonar, so you've got fish level, so this, you can adjust this, so if you only want to pick up bigger fish, you'd increase the number. Noise level is to do with your interference and how sensitive the sonar is. So if you're finding you're fishing somewhere very weedy, for example, you can turn your noise level right down so it's not picking up too much stuff. Here we've got low voltage alarm on. That basically means that you've got a warning when the battery's low. Voice prompt means you've got the remote on mute or off mute. So obviously I had mine off or on rather. So the voice prompt will or won't be working based off the position of this. Arrowhead GPS, so we can change, I changed that, so we generally always want that set to GPS. And units, you've got metric and imperial, so you can change between feet and meters, Celsius and Fahrenheit. And again, on the right here, you don't need to worry about this. This is coding, which is for pairing a new remote. So if you ever need a new remote, you would go onto coding and you'd start coding it that way. But we're done. Everything here we're happy with. We can click exit. And generally speaking, you don't need to worry about any of this stuff really. The only thing you might want to go into, as I mentioned, is to change the colours, maybe even change the boat selection. But you can go in there and change all your layout. But I wouldn't worry about anything else really. All you need to worry about is this screen and what's going on here. And as I say, this will literally give you all the information and everything you need to know about the boat at pretty much all times. And that pretty much covers everything there is to know on the Hawk in a brief-ish video. Now, of course, I could make this video ridiculously long, show it in use and go through a variety of things, but I don't think most of you would watch that video long enough and stay interested long enough to watch that all the way through. Fundamentally, I just wanted to show you what's included with the boat, what to expect in a comparison against our other boat, of course, being the Raptor. Both boats are a fantastic option. In my opinion, of course, my opinion is going to be biased, but for the money that they are, I think they're a fantastic bit of kit. You're getting a hell of a lot out of a boat for that sort of money. And of course, combined with something like the option that we have with the winch cam, for example, that really is something quite smart. But again, I didn't want to show that in this video because this video is about this boat itself. So hopefully this video helps. If one of you already own this boat, great. And as I say, I hope it helps. If you don't, again, I hope this video helps maybe show and display just how simple the remote is. Unfortunately, trying to explain anything that is somewhat technology advanced with regards to touchscreen and obviously has a lot of adjustment, it can sometimes seem quite intimidating. But I hope in this video I did as good a job as I can to show you that it's not too bad, it's actually quite easy to use, and being touchscreen is a really, really nice feature as well, of course. But the Hawk, as I mentioned, cracking little boat for the money, really good size, and ticks most of the boxes in my opinion. But as I say, hope it helps. If you've got any further questions, feel free to ask in the comments below and we will try and help you as soon as we can. Take care.